Hey everyone, John Martinez here with Midwest Revenue Group. I wanted to put this video together to really go through the problem with traditional selling systems today. You know, I have a ton of customers, a ton of people who come to me with the same issues. And the bottom line is all the issues they're having with sales, prospects stalling out, going dark, misleading them sometimes, not telling the whole truth. All those things are really tied back to sales systems that just don't work. Really the traditional selling system. So what I want to do with this video is just kind of show you whatever is not working with your sales today, why that is, and exactly what to do about it. So it's called the problem with traditional selling systems. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. So let's start with the big problem. The big problem is it's tough to produce leads, right? Marketing's no easy thing. It's always changing. If you market from a technology perspective, it's hard to keep up with. If you're just using kind of brute force and cold calling and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot of time, energy, and resources. People get burnt out. So it's hard to produce that lead, right? So when you do produce a lead, when you do have an opportunity on the table, you want to make sure you close every closable deal, and you want to make sure you do that at the best possible margins, right? So, and you want to make sure you do it as quickly as possible. So really the big problem is leads are tough to get. How do we make sure we're taking every lead and really turning it into opportunity if it should be, right? Too many salespeople, too many business owners walk away from deals thinking, did I do that right? Is there something different I could have said? Is there something different I could have done? Could this have gone a different way? And the reality of the situation is if you're using the right sales process, you should never, ever walk away from a deal with any question whatsoever, whether that could have been a deal or not. You should be able to walk away with a clear yes and a clear no, or a clear no. And if it is a clear no, you should be 100% certain that needs to be a no. You should also be in a position where if things ever do change, you are first up at bat. You are ready to go. They're going to come right back to you and want to come back to you and do business with you. So that's the big problem. Leads need to turn into deals if it's a closable deal. And if it's a closable deal, it needs to be closed really as quickly as possible at the best margins as possible, right? So here are the big problems that we usually hear. This is not all of them, but it's a good group of them. I'm just going to touch on a few. Inadequate sales volume, that goes without saying. Long sales cycles, right? The question you have to ask yourself is a one-call close turning into 3? Is a 3-month sales cycle turning into a 12? So long sales cycles, it can be a massive issue because the longer the sales cycle, the more money and resources you're putting out there that are not being recouped yet. Whether it's your advertising or your workforce or something else, you're paying to get that business, and the longer the sales cycle goes, the longer you go without that revenue to operate your business and to scale and to grow. High cost per sale. Many people pay way too much per deal. Depends on what industry you're in and what you do, but usually you can look around at your peers and figure out, what people are paying per deal. Is it $1,000? Is it $10,000? Is it $15? You should know exactly what you're paying per sale, or you might just have a gut instinct, right? Like, hey, I know it needs to be cheaper, but I don't know why it's not. I'm not even sure what to tackle. Too many prospects shopping your offer around. This is a big one. If you guys are putting out quotes, proposals, anything like that, whether it's verbal or it's written, and then your prospects are taking those and using them to get better deals from your competition, that's a massive problem. That's a big one we deal with. Oh man, a lot of people, this is the worst. When you feel forced to cut margins to win a deal, isn't that the worst? You get all the way to the finish line, you feel like you're close, and then you kind of start losing in the negotiation, right? You feel like in order to win the deal, you need to cut some margins, and you've already put so much time and effort and energy into a deal. By the time you get to this point, you're just thinking, wow, put this much into it. Getting a little something out of it's better than nothing, and you cut those margins. Too many maybes and think it overs. That's a massive. That's probably the biggest problem in sales today. You go through your process, and it doesn't end with a clear yes or a clear no. that usually leads to prospects going dark, which is next on the list. And negotiation is, you got to know how to do that, because if you don't know how to negotiate, you're probably leaving tons and tons of money on the table. With the customers we work with, if you learn how to negotiate correctly, which does tie into sales process, you've got to do the front end right to be powerful on the back end. With our customers, we see anywhere between a 10 to 15% increase in margin just from that little piece alone with the negotiating. So here's my big promise. During our short amount of time together, I'm going to cover, why those problems exist. Those ones, every one that you just saw on the screen, I'm going to tell you exactly why those exist and what you can do with it. I know that's a tall order for however many minutes we've got here. I don't particularly like doing webinars myself. So if you haven't noticed, I talk quickly. I'm going to move very, very fast. Bear with me. We're going to get through this quickly, but my big promise is by the time we get to the end of this thing, whether it's 30 minutes or 45, you're going to know exactly why all those things happen and what to do about them. Okay, I'm going to give you the exact reason traditional sales processes are ineffective and what to do about it. And what that's going to give you really is time and freedom. I know that sounds kind of new agey, fluffy terminology, but at the end of the day, if you're a business owner or you're a salesperson listening to this, watching this, that's what it's all about, right? When you get your sales process dialed in, you save a ton of time. You don't even have to work as much because you're making enough money. Time and money, real freedom, the real reason, the only reason any of us own businesses, sell stuff, put ourselves through this daily grind is for more time and money. And if you're not working for more time and money, if you're just stockpiling your money away so you can work another 80-hour week, then hop off this webinar now, because this isn't for you. This is for the guys and gals out there who have been nose to the grindstone and just know they're not getting the results that they want. And because of it, they're not living life anymore, right? The reason we do this, the reason I created, we've got probably 10 different sales training companies, we've got cold call centers, all that kind of stuff. And the reason we ended up creating it, creating all of those, was for time and money, right? For me personally, in my life, I'm a father of 5, and grinding away for so long in my early career, I was sacrificing my life. I had lost friends. I just didn't have the time to hang out with them anymore. My relationship suffered with my spouse. I wasn't spending time with my kids. I was watching them kind of grow up from a distance. They would say things to me like, we'd be sitting around the house and they'd say, hey, we're going to go with mom to this amusement park, to Six Flags. And my wife would say, what about dad? And they just automatically say, no, dad will be working. And it broke my heart. So I realized that time and money are the real keys to freedom. You can have as much, you got to have the money. Money brings options, right? When you have money, you're not worried about paying this or that. None of your decisions are influenced by money. Should we do this from a health perspective, from a vacation perspective? Your decisions are really made the right way once money's taken out of the equation. But then also time, because money doesn't matter if you have no time. So the reason why we do what we do is to give people back time and money. We do it through the tool of sales training. So let's jump to the next slide. Before we get started, if you haven't picked it up already, I go fast. I work fast, I move fast. Time and money, those are both important to me too, as we just discussed. So we're going to fly through this thing. It's not going to be slow. I'm not going to draw it out. We got a very limited amount of time together. I don't want to put any more than 45 minutes into this. Whoever you are on the other side of the screen, hey, I love you. I wish you the very best, but I'm not going to spend 8 hours delivering this thing to you. We're going to get through it quickly. Okay, I'm going to give you everything I can within about 45 minutes, maybe even just 30, and then I'm going to show you where to get more help if you need it, okay? So don't worry if we go through this quick. If you want some more information, if you want some more help, I'll tell you exactly where to go at the end of this thing, okay? Real quick, who am I? Why should you listen to me? You're probably asking yourself that question right now. So I own the REI Sales Academy, the MRG Midwest Revenue Group family of companies. Personally trained sales forces of over 400 companies. I've created and participate in 5 high-end sales masterminds. I own, now I think about 10 different businesses, and we've deployed sales systems in 50 plus industries. So From a business perspective, I'm deep into it. From sales, I've sold and trained salespeople in every industry. This is what I do. But you know what? Who am I really? I've already touched on this. I'm a dad. I'm an introvert. I'm a husband. I'm a homebody. I like to hang out at home or go camping or take the boat out on the lake. That's what I do. And the only reason I tell you this is because at the end of the day, I'm not a sales guru. I didn't, I wasn't born a salesman, right? I don't think anyone is. So if you're watching this and you're going, yeah, John, I get it. You can do this stuff, but I'm not built that way. Let me just kind of address that myth right now. Nobody's built to sell, and the people you think are built to sell, they're definitely not built to sell. Those high energy, those very, very, those people, right? The people who love to talk and make friends easy, those actually make the worst salespeople. They can be great salespeople with the right training, with the right process, but naturally they're the worst. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Usually they have an emotional need to be liked, and because of that, they give their prospects what they want. They don't challenge their prospects. They don't ask the right questions. They always lose in negotiations because how do you get people to like you? You don't go anywhere they're not comfortable going, which is necessary in sales, right? You totally bail on your price. You give in completely when you get to negotiation and all those things. So I wasn't born a salesperson. You don't have to have been born a salesperson. So if you're watching this already going, I get it, but that's not me, get that out of your head immediately because there's no such thing as a natural born salesperson. Now, some people do have some DNA that makes them more prone to being successful at following a sales process. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the process you follow. Just like every other part of your business, think about it. You don't go out and look for, a lot of business owners I work with go, hey, how do I find that rock star salesperson? And I go, you don't find the rock star salesperson. That's the wrong mentality. What you want to look for is a person that can follow the right sales process. Think about your business. Do you go out and go, I'm gonna find just a rock star, person for my accounting team. I'm gonna find a rock star accountant. You go, no, I'm gonna follow the person. I'm gonna hire the person in my business that follows our processes, that does everything the way we know is the best way to do them. When they follow the process, you can predict results, right? So this is where my career started. Just a little bit more about me, just so you know who I am and where I came from. This was my first office, my 1988 Mazda RX-7. My first sales job was selling insurance, business to business. I traveled 5 states in this car. I actually ended up taking out the passenger seat and built myself a desk for my applications and things like that. And that was my first sales job. I got it because early in my life, I worked for a catering company when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I delivered food to doctors' offices for pharmaceutical sales reps. The way that business works is pharmaceutical sales reps want to sell drugs to doctors. So what they do is they order them food, they give them gifts, most likely food, and then when the doctor would come to the break room in their office to get a bagel or lunch or whatever it is, that was their 5 minutes to chat with them, right? So that was my first exposure to sales. I saw it. I was making $8 an hour. I said, I'd rather do that. These are good-looking, successful people. They have company cars. I want that. So I became an insurance agent. I worked for all commission. I slept in that car many nights because I didn't know what I was doing. I stunk at sales, but I could hustle with the absolute best of them. So I traveled to 5 states, many nights sleep in that car. I had an old Notre Dame blanket folded up back there by the window. And when it got cold, I'd wrap it around me because my heat didn't work. And I had a towel that I kept too because when I needed to defrost the windows, I had to do that with the towel and wipe it down because defrost didn't work. But that was my baby. That's where I got started. Now, I out-hustled everybody. I couldn't sell worth a darn, right? I'd have to see 10 times as many people to make half as many sales. But I did have the hustle going for me. So at about 21 years old, I was offered my own insurance agency. So there I am. Today I don't have any hair, but that was me back then. Didn't know what I was doing. And for a company called American Republic Insurance. I was offered my own agency, and everyone in my agency was 20 to 30 years older than I was. But I took the chance. I started from scratch. I was all by myself when I started. It was just me. I was the only person in the agency. And I struggled. But with that struggle, a gentleman helped me out. The gentleman who just lit up on the left side of the screen, his name's Al Payone. Al Payone's still in insurance, and I believe he recruited for the Colorado football team as well for CU. And he taught me what I needed to know about sales. So he flew out to my office in St. Louis, Missouri, and he spent a week with me. And the first thing he did is he said, "John, here's a process for recruiting, which is basically sales, right? I had to sell job seekers on an all commission job. Not only was it all commission, not only was I not paying them, not only did you have to bust your butt to be any good at it, but they actually had to get licensed as an insurance agent, so it was going to cost them money to start. So that was a sale, right? And then I had to train them to sell. And I remember I didn't know how to sell. I just hustled. And you know what? Every insurance agent that I hired, none of them wanted to work 80 hours a week. Go figure, right? So I had to learn to train them to sell. So Al gave me what I needed. He gave me process, the first bit of sales process that I ever learned. And with that process, within a year's time, it was actually about 13 months since I left the catering company making $8 an hour. Within about 13 months, I had 50 agents in my St. Louis office. And we were doing about $250,000 a week in annualized revenue, which for me meant $5,000 a week was how much I got paid. I got paid a percentage of what the agency brought in. So I went from $8 an hour to $250,000 a year within 13 months. I was sold on sales at that point. So after that, I started diving into everything I could get my hands on. Sales process, negotiating, influence, the social sciences, everything from Miller Hyman, Action, Spin, Sandler, Jeff Toll, Neil Rackham, spin selling, Daniel Pink. We got into psychology, influence, behavioral economics. Neuroscience is huge now. Peter Senge and Dan Ariely and systems thinking at MIT, right? Really about processes and feedback loops and all that crazy stuff. I'm not gonna nerd out on you. I promise. I won't get into that. Today, what we call all this is neuroeconomics. Neuroeconomics is just a unified theory of decision making based on how people actually make decisions, right? Neuroscience, so how the brain works, the biology of the brain, economics, all the social sciences, including psychology, all rolled into one, and we now know exactly how and why people make decisions, and it's super easy to sell once you know how to help people make decisions, once we know how people make decisions. So that's my background. I've nerded out on this stuff for the last 20 years and kind of rolled it into some really easy to understand sales process, a 4-step process, with a couple of tools and strategies you can use to be more effective at it. What I do today is I travel the country speaking and training. I still train personally in one of my businesses. Once a week for an hour a week, I train online. I travel the country and I go on sales calls from coast to coast. But mostly I do a lot of training of the trainers. I've got trainers for almost every industry you can think of across the nation. What I do is I find salespeople, I find sales leaders who've had 10 or 20 years success in an industry, who knows it backwards and forwards. Then we equip them with our sales process, our training, and then they adapt it to that industry, and that's how we train. So I spend most of my time training my trainers who have that industry knowledge and experience. But I still personally train to just stay in the thick of it. I still take a few of my own sales calls because I love it nowadays. But I love to just share the message, do what I'm doing right now. Usually I like to do it better in a live setting. So I travel the country. I do a lot of keynote addresses. I speak at sales conferences. I do, podcasts, radio shows, television programs, that type of thing. If you look us up online, you can probably find a lot of that stuff. So that's what I do today. Here's the deal. None of that frickin' matters, right? Like that's a fun story for me to tell. And that's really cool from a credibility perspective. But you know what? To you, if you're struggling with sales, none of that matters at all. Only real hardcore results matter, right? And here's the deal. Our sales training gets real results. This was posted in Facebook the 2 days, about 48 hours ago. Has anyone done John Martinez's Midwest Revs sales training? And look at the freaking comments. I was blown away. So all these people on here, these are entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople from across the country. Mike Hambright there, good stuff, highly recommended. He owns many real estate investment firms, masterminds. He's Harvard educated, a great guy. Jared Vidalis he's an entrepreneur down in the Phoenix area. He has a call center, an investment business, and a couple others as well. Spent most of his career in corporate America. But yes, great training, highly recommend. Yes, game-changing for yourself and everyone on your team. Yes, it's the real deal. You can go through and actually look up their real people. You can contact these people and ask about their thoughts. Casey DeVault, yes, one of the best investments you can make in your business. Alex Pardo, do it, no-brainer. Jeff and Belinda Henry, John's the best in the business. Like everyone here says, pretty much no brains. Stephen Chato, yes, phenomenal training. Don Ross, no second. He's in the tech space. No second thought should be given on this one. It's the real deal, and John's okay too. Stephen Libman, highly recommend. He's out in Pennsylvania. Brad Woodall, yes, do it. Hambright, good stuff. Gene Martin, if you want to take it to the next level, go for it. Vidalis, the backbone of our sales approach is derived from John's courses. Anton Young, he's a published author. Yep, great training. Ben Sherman, best damn sales training out there. It's next level stuff. He says REI because that's still the industry I personally train in. Gary Dale Harper helps businesses scale up and get clear. He is a Sigma 6 black belt. He's an EOS implementation consultant, has a few businesses around there. Is an amazing. This is the best training you can do for acquisitions department. Joe Dillon, best out there. Ken Abdullah, phenomenal is an understatement. Back for more. Paul Evans, John Martinez is fantastic. I've been in sales my entire life and have been involved in several sales training programs. Sandler, Covey, Dale Carnegie. John's program is a blend of many programs as they apply to closing deals. I did the online course, a weekly class. It was fantastic. I need to go to one of his boot camps. You get the point, right? Highly recommend. Where do I sign up? Just it goes on, and I love it, right? Justin Morgan, he's a business owner out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Been through our course 3 times, as good as it gets, right? So only results matter, and I didn't put this on here to pat myself on the back, just to say, hey, we get some really phenomenal results. We know what we're doing, so I want to preface this video with this to say what I'm about to show you is the real deal. This isn't theory. This isn't derived from something someone told me. This isn't something I read in a book. This is real deal stuff. We're out there every day in the trenches getting results with it. So that's what I'm going to share with you is no fluff, no BS. This is the real deal stuff. Suffice it to say, we are hands down the leader in sales training out there. There's lots of sales trainers, sales training companies. We retrain everyone they train. We are the real deal. To get there, I've done a heck of a lot of things right. You can't get to where I've got to without doing a lot of things right. That's part of the puzzle. There's many pieces to that puzzle. That's one. But here's the deal. I've done a lot wrong. I've probably done 10 times more wrong than I've done right. And that's okay, because everything I did wrong over the last 20 years, that's where we've derived our training, our knowledge from, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So, thousands and thousands of sales calls. I could say without a doubt, I know the secret to sales. And there's really no secret, right? I guess you can call it a secret because it eludes so many people. But when we're done with this video, you're going to go, oh, that's easier than I thought. I get it. I understand. It's not even going to take an hour, and you'll know the secret to sales. I know that's a tall order, but just hang in there. You'll understand. Again, this stuff was discovered the hard way. I wasted a ton of time over the years, a ton of effort, a ton of leads and opportunity and money. I've wasted a lot making mistakes, but those mistakes brought me closer to the secret to sales, to some sales truths. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So there's a lot of guessing, testing, modifying, and repeating along the way. Today you get to cheat. I'm going to give you the easy way. I'm just going to 20 years. I'm just going to give it to you. Best way I know how. I'm going to give you the exact formula we use to train the top 1%. And not just the top 1% that we train, because that's who we train, that's who we get there, but based on data from, Huthwaite's study, from the Challenger sale and their studies, and tons of subsequent studies. What do the top 1% of salespeople do? That's what you're going to learn in this video. So buckle up. Here we go. I'm going to start right here with this picture on the screen. Here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to cover processes today. Okay, I alluded to process earlier in this video. I'm going to go over a couple of processes that you are very familiar with. And when we're done covering these processes, right, just everyday processes and a few different sales processes, when we're done, you're going to know without any shadow of a doubt exactly why the things that you're doing that are not working, why they're not working, what to do about them. So I'm going to cover just some basic processes, processes in our everyday life, like getting out of bed. Business process like an assembly line. Then we're going to talk about sales processes, right? The traditional sales process, when there's a salesperson involved, how people, the people's buying process when a prospect's buying process when a salesperson's involved. And then I'm going to also go through the process people use to buy and make decisions when there's no salespeople involved. And when I go through all those, you're going to see, it's going to be crystal clear. So let's just get to it. Let's do it. So let's talk about your morning routine, right? When you get out of bed this morning, tomorrow morning, last 20 mornings, you probably did about the same thing, right? Unless there was some big departure in your everyday routine, unless you were on vacation or traveling or something like that, every day is probably about the same, right? You probably do your routine in the same order, whether it's brush your teeth, go to the gym, shower, eat, you have your same order, right? What would happen if you mix that order up, right? It's like we probably, some people brush their teeth after they drink orange juice for a reason, because what happens if you reverse that? What happens if you shower in the morning, then go to the gym, and then go to work? Even the way you drive to work, it's probably the same every time. And I want you to ask yourself, I know this is a silly, simple question, but ask yourself this: why? When you do things over and over, why do you do them the same way every time? And did it start that way, or did your routine develop into what it is today? And the answer is, we do things every day because these routines, because they produce predictable results, right? Predictable results. We know when we do things the same way in the same order, we know what's going to happen, right? We know what the result is going to be. So we develop these routines, these processes in our lives. And process is important because we're going to talk about sales process today, but we have to understand from the basic, build the foundation, and then go from there. Let's look at some business processes, okay? Let's look at the assembly line. I want you to do some imagining for me. I want you to imagine that your job is you are a supervisor on this assembly line on the screen, okay? That's what you do. You're a supervisor. And one day, you're watching over the line, and one of your quality control people come to you and say, listen, we got a problem. Every one of these vehicles that are rolling off the line, there's an issue, right? There's an issue, let's say, with the brakes. So he says, boss, what do we do? We got two options. So I want you to remember, this is you, you're a supervisor. I want you to decide whether you're going to do option one or option two. So option one is, okay, boss, here's what we can do. Every car, and this is what we have been doing, every car that rolls off the line, we cart it across campus to the shop, and we repair them one by one, and we get them out into the fleet as quickly as possible. Option number one. So boss, should we keep doing that? Or option number two, we can walk the assembly line. We can find where the problem is taking place, where the malfunction is taking place in the assembly line. Fix the piece of equipment or whatever is causing that problem so everything rolls off the assembly line already fixed. What would you do? The first or the second? Fix it one off, or fix the piece of the process, the piece of the assembly line that's broken? Well, the answer is obvious, right? I've probably trained thousands upon thousands of salespeople, and the answer is always unanimous. You fix the assembly line so everything comes off. You only have to fix it once, right? It makes sense. When you fix the process, you know what the outcome is. So this is how this relates to sales, okay? Here's what we're not going to talk about today. I'm not going to talk about closing. Here's the reason. Anyone who talks about closing as a sales strategy doesn't know anything about sales. And I know, please don't take that the wrong way, but let me explain this to you. Closing, fixing the close, when you don't get the right outcome to the sales process, that would be the exact same as saying, hey, listen, this assembly line's broken. Let's fix every car as it comes off the line, right? That's not the problem. The problem is the process. So if you want a predictable outcome, if you want good cars rolling off the line, you fix the assembly line, you fix the car building process. If you want to fix your sales, if you want more closes, the close is the same as that car coming off the line. And if the close isn't the close you like, if you don't like the outcome of your sales call, nothing's wrong with the way you closed. What's wrong was something leading up to your close, the conversation, the sales process leading up to it. So if you concentrate on sales process, the close happens naturally. It rolls off the sales assembly line pretty quickly and pretty easily. In fact, in sales, closing is the easiest part. I'm going to give you the only close I've used in probably 15 years. And I think to my name, I now have somewhere around $2.4 billion worth of new business between my companies and the people I help. So this is it. This is my big salesy manipulative close. What would you like to do? That's it. There's no Ben Franklin close. There's none of that junk. You know why? Because my process is dialed in. And by the time I get to the close, that's the easiest part of it all. By the time you get to the close, selling is done. It's over. You've already put in the work. So what we're going to talk about today is process. Does that make sense? Process. Because when you fix the process, the outcome of every sales conversation is going to be a clear yes or a clear no. And when it is a clear no, right, we're going to eliminate maybes and think it overs. When it is a no, you're going to know with 100% certainty that's what it should be. And here's the cool part. You can do this without applying any kind of pressure or anything at all. Nothing. In fact, you can tell your prospects, and you should be able to tell your prospects what your entire sales process is. It should be completely above board. And you can say, here's what we're going to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. At the end, you're going to have a decision. If your decision's yeah, cool. We'll decide what that next step is together, and we'll put it in action. And if for any reason you decide, hey, timing's not right, or we shouldn't take some type of next step, totally cool. It's okay with me. Happy that we got there together. No hard feelings. If that's the way it turns out, that's cool. We don't sell everyone that we talk to because we absolutely shouldn't. It's not a perfect fit for everyone. That should be your sales process. That should be your conversation you have up front. Nothing hidden, everything above board. So why use a process? Why do we use a process when we get up? Why do we use a process in our businesses? Why do we have all these processes that we basically live our life by? Easy. It's predictable outcome, right? So I told you we're going to get into a couple other processes. These are the 3 I want to concentrate on today because your eyes will be opened up, much like mine were a couple decades ago, to exactly why traditional sales processes fail today. Number 1, we're going to talk about the prospect's buying system when a salesperson's involved. Okay, so how do people buy? How do they make that decision when there's a salesperson involved? Number 2, what's that traditional sales process even look like? Let's give it a name. Let's give it some steps. Number 3, what's the prospect's natural buying system when there's no salesperson interaction? And when we put these things side by side, I'm excited for you because it's going to be as clear as day. Like I said, I'm an introvert, which is probably why I'm doing this video by myself. But I get excited about it. I love this stuff. So here's a prospect's buying system, okay? And bear with me here. You're probably reading ahead and you're going, I don't know about this. This doesn't sound right, but bear with me and I'll explain. Let's go through this. So I want you to imagine yourself not as a salesperson, not as a business owner, not as an entrepreneur, but I want you to imagine yourself as a prospect, as a buyer. Because I think when you imagine yourself and you think about buying decisions you've made and sales processes you've been through when you've been on the other end, this is going to really help clarify some things for you. So I want you to just play along with me and think of yourself as a buyer. And I want you to think, let's use the quintessential sales process, right? Sales scenario, the car lot, okay? So imagine yourself this. You're walking onto a car lot. You're obviously there because you have some type of interest in the vehicle, right? So you're walking on there, you're approaching the cars, and out of the corner of your eye, you see 3 salesmen standing on the step. They're waiting for they're waiting for their turn. One of the gentlemen starts approaching you. You can see he's kind of making a beeline. He's going to cut you off before you get to the cars. You're walking towards the car, kind of pretending like you don't see him. Corner of your eye, here he comes, and he says, "What can I do for you?" What are you going to say? Think about it. What do you say? Now, I don't know who you are, I don't know where you come from, but I can about guarantee you're going to say something along the lines of just looking, right? Now, you're probably also not a pathological liar. Didn't get up this morning thinking, hey, I'm going to mislead some poor sales guy, but you misled. So usually step 1 in the prospect's buying system is to mislead with more or less enthusiasm. That's an example of leading with less enthusiasm. Now think to yourself, why would you do that? What are you trying to avoid? Mostly we hear things like, I don't want to be pressured into something. I don't want to go in and fill out the paperwork, get sucked into anything. I don't want to deal with any of it. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't think they're going to understand what I even want. They just want to sell. They don't care what I want to buy. So you mislead with less enthusiasm to get them off your back, right? Sometimes we mislead with more enthusiasm, right? So if I was walking on that car lot and I wanted to get a deal done quickly, I actually did this with the boat just last week. I don't want to go through the big rigmarole, right? I don't want to go through all the paperwork. I don't want to go through a long negotiation. So I mislead with more enthusiasm. So my family and I were at the lake, Table Rock Lake in Branson, Missouri. And we have a boat already, and we were boating out there, and we pulled into one of those dockside cafes, and we were eating, and we noticed at a dock over in the marina, there was a boat show. So no intention at all of buying a boat. But we walked over there and we started looking and we found one that, honestly fit our family's needs a lot better. So the sales guy says, what can I do for you? And, I don't want to go through a 4-hour process. I want the price. And I know he's not going to just give me the price. So here's what I do. I say, and I don't want just any price. I want his best price. So I said, hey, listen, here's the deal. I'm a cash buyer. I'm ready to buy today. I don't have much time. I like this boat. This is actually the nicest boat I see here. I think it's going to fit my family's needs perfectly. I'm ready to buy now if you can do this for me. I need to know X, Y, and Z, and I need your best price. Guess what he did? Owner of the company dragged him down, started crunching the numbers, ran over to the other dock, appraised my boat, and within 10 minutes, I had their best offer. Misled with more enthusiasm to get what I want. Now think about your business. Do you ever get prospects who contact you and they're ready to go? They're like, I need this, I want this, I needed it yesterday. I've heard you guys are the best, I'm ready to go. I just need a quote. You give them a quote or whatever it is, however you relay your information about your product or service, and then they disappear. They misled with more enthusiasm. Now, as buyers, oftentimes we do this without even thinking about it, misleading with more or less enthusiasm. It's not a planned thing. It just happens naturally. So step 1 in the prospect's buying system when a salesperson is involved is mislead with more or less enthusiasm. Does that make sense? Step 2, put yourself back on the car lot. You are walking that car lot. You are popping doors open. You're popping the hood open and looking at the engine. I do that. I don't even know, I don't even know why I do that. I think because my dad did it. And I think you're just supposed to look at the car engine. So I do that. And I get in the seat and I turn the knobs and maybe even do a test drive. I do my research, right? Some people might look at miles per gallon. Some people might look at interest rates, all kinds of things. But if you're looking at cars, you're doing your research, right? You're doing your groundwork. Does that make sense? Is that a logical next step in the buying process? Okay, now imagine this, okay? imagine this. Imagine that you fall in love with the car. Now, I don't know if you've ever fallen in love with a car. I'm a car guy. I fall in love with the car about once every 13 months. I just love them. No cars in particular, sports cars, SUVs, trucks, sedans, doesn't matter. I like cars. I like the way they're built. I like, new features and gadgets and all that kind of stuff. For some reason, they just intrigue me. So you probably got something like that in your own life, right? It might be a hobby like fishing. It could be, a physical, it might be homes. It could be anything, right? But I want whatever it is that's in your life, whatever it is that you get obsessed with, that you fall in love with, that that just takes over your imagination and your thoughts whenever you see or think about this thing. I want you to imagine that this is how you feel about this car. You gotta have it. You gotta have this vehicle. It might be even a little out of budget. You don't care. You're even bargaining with yourself, right? You're like, I'll brown bag it to work. Bring my own lunch for the next 15 years. That should free up enough money to buy this extra car payment, right? So that's how bad you want this thing. Sales guy comes back. So, did you find one you like? That's what he says. How do you respond? Now, you're probably thinking, you'd say something like, well, maybe. It's okay. I might work, I'm not sure. You're going to mislead. You're going to use smokescreen objections, right? Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Now, again, it's probably not because you're a mean, nasty person. It's probably not because you woke up this morning with the intention to mislead someone intentionally. But it happens. Why? Well, you probably feel like if you let this person know how excited you truly are, how much you need it, that you're going to lose the upper hand, that you're not going to get the best deal, that you might be taken advantage of, right? So you can't let on how much you got to hide. You got to mislead, right? Now, let's say you do this. You go to the desk. You're going through everything. For one reason or the other, the deal didn't work out, okay? The deal did not work. You decided no. You wanted it, but something was rubbing you the wrong way. You decided no. The salesperson puts on the pressure. Let's close. Just sign here. Let's do this. Call grandma for the money, whatever it is. You're feeling pressured. 3 hours later, you get out of there and your phone rings. And it's the dealer. You've decided no. Are you going to pick up that phone? No, you're not. Why? If you don't buy, you're going to go dark. Right? Why? Answer yourself that question. So that's the prospect's buying system when a salesperson's involved. Do you agree, disagree? Here's the reason why. We're not mean, nasty people. Your prospects, right? The people you sell to, they're not mean, nasty people either. They're afraid. They're embarrassed. They're afraid that you're going to waste their time. They're afraid that you're not going to take no for an answer. They're afraid that you won't or don't understand their problem. They're afraid they might be tricked or misled. They're afraid they might not get the best deal. They might be embarrassed. They don't even know how to make this buying decision. They might be embarrassed. They're not the only decision maker or the real decision maker, right? What happens when a salesperson asks, are you the decision maker? And you say, no. All right, well, I'm not talking to you. They might be afraid they're going to make a mistake. These are probably all the same reasons why you misled in the scenario we just went through, right? Probably a handful of these. Your prospects, the people you sell to, they're not a different species. They're us. They think the same way. They do the same things. They have the same fears and embarrassments, the same anxieties. They react the same way in the traditional sales scenarios that they're in. Does this make sense? The reason why your prospects do what they do is the same reason why you treat salespeople the same way. Okay? Let's look at the traditional selling system. How's that fit in? The traditional approach to selling. Well, it usually looks like this. Needs analysis kicks things off, right? So, hey, let's talk about your needs. What can I do for you? What are you looking for? Find out a little bit of information. Then you go right in with the presentation. Hey, look at all my bells and whistles. I'm giving you the full dog and pony show. Here's my Better Business Bureau ratings. Here's some customer satisfaction ratings. Here's some testimonials. Here's some stats and figures. Here's a demonstration. Aren't you super impressed? Now that you're super impressed and you saw everything my product or service can do, why don't you go ahead and sign here? Oh, you're not ready yet. Then come the objections, right? Needs analysis, presentation, the dog and pony show. Now that you've seen what we can do, it's time to close, right? Well, no, hold on. I've got some questions. I'm not ready yet. Then you try to overcome objections. Well, let's no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Buy now. You're in chase mode and they're hiding. Do you agree that this is a traditional sales approach? Needs analysis, presentation, close, overcome objections, and chase. This is traditional selling as we know it today and as it's been for the last 50, 70 years. Let's look at these side by side. If we take traditional selling and we take that buying process when a salesperson's involved, check this out. What we actually see, the correlation between the two, what we find is that prospect's buying system that drives us crazy, the misleading, the hiding, all that stuff, that is because of the traditional selling system. In other words, the traditional selling process is dysfunctional. Traditional salespeople have really conditioned their prospects to behave the way they do. Let me say that again. When salespeople sell traditionally, they condition their prospects to behave in those ways, right? Think about the car lot. When you walked on, you didn't know your salesperson, but you assumed they were like, this was going to be like every other sales scenario you've been in. Same with your prospects. Even if you do everything right, you've got to overcome every other selling scenario they've been through in their life. Your prospect's behavior, all those things that drive you crazy in sales, those are in direct response to the dysfunctional traditional sales process. It's because of you. It's because of us. It's because of salespeople. We are not allowed to blame our prospects for acting like they do because it is our fault. Hey, what do you need? Here's my presentation. Buy now. Oh, you're not ready? Buy now. Oh, you're not ready? Your objection doesn't matter. Buy now. Are you ready to buy yet? Why aren't you picking up my calls? Does this make sense? Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing forward. Let's look at the prospect's natural buying system. Let's put this thing into perspective. When there's no salesperson interaction at all, what in the world happens? Let's think again. I want you to use yourself as an example. How do you buy when there's no salesperson involved? How do you buy online, right? There's no salesperson involved online in most cases. Think about Amazon.com. How do you buy at Amazon? Let's say that you wanted some gloves, right? I'm going to hop on Amazon. I'm going to get some gloves. When you hop on Amazon and you start your search, do you type into Amazon? Do you mislead it? Do you start by misleading it? Do you write something like, I might be looking at a pair of gloves, but I probably am not buying today? No, that's absolutely silly, right? There's no reason to mislead Amazon.com. Why? Well, because all those problems that you feel a salesperson's going to present when they're involved, right? The pressure, all that kind of stuff. You don't mislead. The first thing you do is you identify a problem. My hands are cold, I need gloves. Prospect's natural buying system, there's always a reason. There is always some type of problem. There's always some distance between where they are and where they want to be. Now, that can look like a lot of different things, and that distance can be short or long, but there's some type of problem or opportunity they want to take advantage of. This is how every sale starts. Nobody makes a decision. Nobody changes what they're doing unless there's a problem or opportunity. I guarantee it. I've probably been in front of 10,000 salespeople and asked this question, and I've asked for examples of a buying decision they've made that did not start this way. And we have yet, once examining each one, we have yet to find one, right? Sometimes we do things for silly reasons, out of boredom and ego and things like that, but there's always a reason. Next, evaluation of options. Think Amazon. Gloves pop up. We're looking at prices. We're looking at customer reviews. We're looking at all kinds of funny things like that. We're going to evaluate our options. Once we have all that information, we're going to compare our options with the problem, and we're going to see which is bigger, right? Well, these gloves are $20. Is this a $20 problem or opportunity? In other words, are keeping my hands warm worth $20 for me? And if I say yes, which is the best $20 purchase? Right? So you compare those two things. The size of the problem or the opportunity, the amount of the pain, and what you have to give up in order to get that solved. Then you make a decision. You're going to purchase or pass. It's that simple, right? Hey, got a problem? Let's look at how I can solve it. Hey, is it worth solving with the options I have? I'm going to make a decision. So can we agree this is the prospect's natural buying system? So here's what we've covered. How people buy when a salesperson's involved, what that traditional sales process looks like, and what the prospect's natural buying system looks like. Obviously, there's some gaps here. I told you would seem as clear as day. There's some gaps you can drive a Mack truck through, right? Their traditional sales process is broken. The things that lead our prospects to do all the things we hate them doing are because of the pressure, the traditional sales system we use, right? So we got to have a better system for selling. There's got to be something better out there. And there is. And in order to build it, here's what it's got to do. It's got to align with the prospect's natural buying process. They already like to make decisions a certain way. How do we align with that? We need to address and remove all of those prospect fears and anxieties, right? Embarrassments that they take to the table, right? We got to remove those. We got to take down those walls. We also need to take into account everything else we now know about decision making. There has been tons of data, tons of research around on how people make decisions. And we need to use that data to guide our conversations, right? Here's what it looks like in our business. Set the stage, motivation and urgency, deal killers, and close. Give you a quick rundown. Setting the stage is the first step to starting to break down those barriers, those walls, so you can have open and honest communication. So we address time frame, agenda, and outcome of the sales call. We let them know yes is good, but no is okay too. We get into their agenda and what they want to accomplish, and we start to remove any fears or anxieties, and we also set the stage for a clear yes or no at the end of the call. Then we get into motivation and urgency, right? How does this all start? There's a problem or opportunity. Doesn't it make sense to get into it? It does. And when you actually use the right questioning technique, we use 3 questions, problem, impact, and picture perfect. What you end up doing is you move your prospect's thinking into an emotional state. When I say an emotional state, we're talking about the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the amygdala that handles fear, all those things. That's what I call the emotional brain. But that's where decisions are actually made. So when we want to motivate someone to take action, to make a decision one way or the other, we want to sell emotionally. I know that sounds weird. I'm not going to get into the science right now. It's not as weird as it sounds. But those questions I mentioned, problem, impact, and picture perfect, are what get people motivated to take action. And the more you spend on those questions, the more likely people are to take action. In fact, when we look at a study like Huthwaite's study of 35,000 sales calls over 12 years, they documented 35,000 sales calls, and they could actually see which types of questions the salespeople asked and how many of each question. And they could, without knowing anything else about the conversations, they knew which ones were the best salespeople out there and which had the best results. It's the types of questions you ask. So we get into motivation and urgency. We get them we really get into their why. We get them revved up. We get them ready to make a decision. Feel this urgency to take some type of action. But you know what? No matter how bad somebody wants something, stuff can get in the way. Think about what you want most in your life right now, what you want more than anything. You don't have it. Why don't you have it? It's not an issue of want. It's not an issue of motivation. We call these things deal killers. Even when you get someone really motivated to take action and you truly understand it, and oftentimes when you do this for the first time, this is the first time they've ever clearly articulated the size of their problem or opportunity, and this really gets them revved up, then we got to start removing everything that's going to get in their way, right? Relationships, risk, uncertainty, discomfort. We got to systematically remove all deal killers. Once they're ready to go, we got to get everything out of the way that's going to stop them from taking action. And at the end of this sales process, just like on the assembly line, guess what rolls off? The close. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. It should never be always yes, right? You're not only con men will get a yes every time. What you want to do is every closable deal, every person you should be closing, you want to close with the yes, and the rest you want to end with the clear no. Not a maybe or think it over, no chase mode. That's done. That's a good solid sales process. You can use this, you can take it, it's yours. So let me ask you this question. Knowing what you know now, after spending however much time we just spent together, if you did change how you sold even a little, why would you? And here's why I ask this question. I'm asking to figure out what your motivation is, right? If you're going to change what you do, maybe what you've been doing for 5, 10, or 20 years, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you go through that discomfort, why would you? What's your why? The answer to this is going to tell you right now whether you're going to ever change and get better at sales or not. Because if you have no reason to go through any discomfort, you won't. You might as well stop watching this right here, because you will not change even if you know everything to do step by step systematically without any shadow of any doubt. It'll be uncomfortable because it's new, and anytime we learn or do something new, it's uncomfortable. And if you don't have a big enough why you would change how you sold even a little, you're not going to do it. This is a question for you. You can get very clear on this slide right now whether or not you are ever going to get better at sales, and the determining factor is the size of your why. So that's why I ask you this. If you do change how you sold even a little, why would you? Okay, so I'm wrapping up with my time. Let me show you where to get some more help if you need it. Obviously, there's help everywhere. I'll show you where to get more help on specifically what we talked about. If you look below this video, somewhere below this video, there's going to be a button or something to take you to some type of next step. Probably going to be an application. Here's the reason why. For our company, we don't and we won't work with just anybody. You got to have the drive, you got to have the motivation, you got to have some solid business behind you already. You need to be talking with prospects. You need to be producing leads. If you're not producing leads and talking to prospects, I don't care how good at sales you get, you're not going to sell anyone because you don't have any prospects, right? So there's only a certain types of companies we work with, because there are some types of companies, some types of mindsets, some levels of motivation that I know even if we lay out everything perfectly, these companies will not get results. And I cannot work with these companies, and my team members cannot. So please don't be offended. But if you fill out an application to work with us and you get a polite rejection letter, it's just because we don't think we can get you the results that you're looking for, and we have to bow out. Don't want to waste anyone's time, money, energy, or resources without the results. One of the reasons why we get the results, why you saw all those positive comments, when it comes to sales training, you can't post anything about any sales training out there you can't post anything on social media and get unanimously positive reviews. Think about it. Can you post, it can be, hey, is Christianity good? You're going to get 50% say yes, 50% say no. Mother Teresa, children playing in the park, is that good? You're going to get some people go, absolutely not. So how do we get unanimously high reviews from everyone we've ever worked with? Here's our secret. We work with the right people. So all that just to say, if you click the button, and you fill out the application, if you're not a fit, please don't get offended. If you are a fit, we'll kind of show you what that looks like. We'll give you some pricing, answer any of the questions you have, and just go from there. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to work together, but it's the first step. Okay. For some people, we'll do a quick strategy session where we'll basically, for some people, we'll just be able to say, hey, what are you struggling with? You know what? You don't need us. Or here's how you solve that one issue. I like to just take someone's biggest sales issue and solve it in 15 minutes. Why in the world do we do this? This is pretty simple. We do the strategy session because, number one, it helps people. And when you give value, you get value. And number two, here's the deal. A lot of people we do this for, they're going to say, okay, will you continue to work with me, right? It's just that simple. Give before you get. So if you do decide to work with us, if we go through that process, we solve some of your issues for free, and or you apply and we talk through this thing and we start to work together. Here's what it looks like. This is what the plan would look like to ramp you up. We really concentrate on 3 things in our sales training: setting the stage for open, honest communication, creating an urgency to take action, and then systematically removing deal killers. You know, when you know how to set the stage for open, honest communication with your prospect, when you know how to create an urgency to take action, and when you know how to systematically remove deal killers, you have all the tools you need to increase sales, to build a business that you want, right? All of our material, everything we do is wrapped around those 3 elements, right? Using some pretty cutting edge strategies and tools. So let me walk you through some of our trainings. This isn't everything, but this will give you kind of a sneak peek into what we do. We start with talking about how to get the most out of this training, mindset, what you need to do. We introduce the course. We talk about how people actually buy, how they make decisions. Then there's some more videos kind of to make you laugh and to back up some of that stuff. We talk about setting the stage for open, honest communication. We show some examples. We talk about the perfect questioning strategy. Instantly influencing people in 7 minutes or less based on Dr. Michael Pantalone's book. We talk about some advanced questioning techniques, right? We talk about Socratic questions. We talk about Rackham's work. We talk about softening statements and those types of things, active listening. You know, during all this process, not everyone's just going to be happy-go-lucky. You're going to encounter some resistance. So we talk about how do you overcome resistance, right? Remember, you're up against every sales scenario anybody's ever been through. They're going to be resistant. How do we overcome it? We talk about the principle of scarcity, going negative, using takeaways, dealing with non-committal words and phrases, how to use tactical empathy. And we get in a real deep into that stuff, give you some super simple actionable tools. Uncovering and eliminating deal killers. What are they? How do they get in the way? How do we get our competition fired? All those types of things. We systematically uncover and eliminate them. How do we present? How do we close a deal? How do we transition to the close? How do we even know it's time? When we do know it's time, the presentation, what should that consist of specifically? How do we stress test the sale when we get it? How do we make sure this thing doesn't unravel after all the work we put in and our competitor undercuts us or they get cold feet? How do we negotiate like a champ? Right? That's what we cover. Wrap up. We give you more tools and resources to use in your sales. Tons of other bonus trainings we cover, right? And what we also do is we deliver this live. Sometimes it's via webinar. Sometimes it's on site. We do this all kinds of ways. We do this quick. We do this slow over a number of weeks. We do this online with live webinar. We do it on company prem. It just depends, right? What most customers do is they do our online training, and once a week, either myself or one of our industry-specific sales trainers hops on live with you and goes through what you're learning. Hey, this is what we covered this week in the training. What they talk about is the application. This is really where the rubber meets the road, right? We go, okay, Bob, here's what we talked about this week in the training. The reason why it's set up this way is with our live interaction time, my sales trainers are the cream of the crop. You do not want to spend your time with them just lecturing. You need to dig in. How are you going to use this? How are you going to apply this in your business, in your field, in your market, with what you're selling to who you're selling right now, with the actual sales scenarios you're in? That's how you want to leverage our trainers, right? Not on lecture. Lecture can be recorded. That's what we've done for you. That's why we have it online. We want the interaction. That's what sets us apart. Okay? We hold your hand the entire way. You get access to our trainers, not just during those training courses and the live interaction, but if you work with us, you get direct access to your trainers so they can help you through deals as they come up and encounter problems as they pop up. Access to them through email, social media, Voxer, all kinds of ways. Now again, I want to preface this because every time I roll out this presentation, we do it across the country, we do it live, and we get all kinds of applications. Listen, we can't and we won't work with just anybody. I apologize. Please don't send me a nasty gram, but we can only work with those we are 100% confident we can help. Now, this is a benefit to you, right? It's not a slap in the face or anything like that. This is a benefit to you because if we decide to work with you, we know we can help. Now, again, I believe this is my last slide. To see if you qualify to work with us, to get pricing, to get any of your questions answered, look below. There'll be some type of next step. If you feel like you want to take that next step, go ahead and take it. You already have a sneak peek into our sales process. We use our sales process, right? There will be no pressure. If we talk, if we chat, whether it's live over the phone or Skype or email, whatever it is, if it's a perfect fit, you're going to be the one to decide. We're going to simply answer all your questions. We might have a few questions for you. At the end of the conversation, might be 1, 2, 3, 10 conversations, I don't know. But at the end of each conversation, we're going to make a decision. We'll ask a question. Hey, do you think we stop here, or should we come up with some type of next step? If we stop, that's perfectly okay. No hard feelings. If we're going to decide to take a next step, let's figure out what that next step should be. What's appropriate for this situation? When we get to the end of the conversation and all of your questions are answered, whether that's 15 minutes or 10 conversations, it's always different depending on the industry and the individual. We'll ask you one simple question. What would you like to do? And if you want to work with us, great. If not, that's okay too. At least we both figured it out together. My name's John Martinez. I'm president and CEO of the Midwest Revenue Group family of companies. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helps you. Whether or not we ever do anything together, I hope you can take some of what you learned here and apply it to what you're doing today. Bye-bye.